Sometimes things don't always belong in a museum. They belong in archives, and that's for everybody's safety. A very scary object that is housed at the Traveling Museum of the Paranormal and Occult is referred to as the Dark Mirror. Now, the person who owned this mirror before giving it to the museum bought it at a psychic fair and said they saw terrible visions when looking at it. Yes, it is alleged that the mirror actually reflects the biggest fears of the viewer. People have reported seeing themselves age and disappear when they look into it, and some folks in particular have even reported seeing their own dead bodies when they're looking. Yeah, I don't want to look in that mirror. No thank you, I'm good. In Jewish folklore, a Dybbuk box is an evil spirit. Supposedly, a German war camp survivor accidentally summoned a demon while using a homemade Ouija board, but managed to trap it inside this cabinet. So let's just make sure we've got this all correct. Somebody summoned something evil with the Ouija board, sealed it in something else, and people keep trying to awaken it? Yeah, I can see how this is gonna go. Kevin Mannis bought the box at an estate sale in 2001 and immediately started having nightmares about an evil hag. Ditto for any friends who stayed with him. So then he gave the box to his mom, who suffered a stroke on the same day. The box's later owners have also claimed that the evil spirit has appeared in their nightmares as well. The last owner before it made its way to a museum was Jason Haxton, who was the director of the Museum of Osteopathic Medicine, who not only had nightmares but developed a strange skin disease and began coughing up red fluids that should stay in your body. So at this point, Haxton contacted his local rabbis, sealed the spirit back in the box, and then hid it from the world with the help from a museum archivist friend. Yeah, it should stay hidden. For centuries, a common wedding gift given to brides of royalty and wealth was an intricate and expensive vase. So back in the 12th century, the Duchess Eleanor of Aquitaine gifted her husband-to-be, King Louis VII, a rock crystal vase. So it wasn't really unusual when a woman in the 15th century received a vase as a wedding gift. But this one was silver, plain looking. There was no intricate markings, no lavish decorations, and it certainly didn't appear to be expensive. But this particular vase contained a curse that would continue to take lives for the next 5 centuries. Not much is known about the woman who originally received the vase way back when, other than her wedding took place in a northern village close to Napoli, Italy. The stories say she didn't know who gifted her the 4-pound silver vase, but she took it to her room for safekeeping. But when the wedding was about to start, nobody could find her. Her husband-to-be searched for her and found her in her room, lying on the ground, clutching the vase with a fierce grip before passing away just moments later. After her funeral, the Bassano vase was given to one of her family members for safekeeping, but within days they were also dead. At the time, nobody thought the vase was the cause, and somebody else got the vase. Yeah, you wanna guess what happened next? Yeah, look at you genius. Days later, they were dead as well. The family finally put 2 and 2 together and reached out to a priest for guidance, under the belief that whoever gifted the bride the vase put a curse on it or made it with cursed materials, and they were instructed to bury it on sacred grounds. Many believe it was buried near the same church where the priest resided, but we're not crystal clear because it stayed out of the history books for the next 500 years. In 1988, an unnamed man happened to dig up the vase, and within it found a note reading, "Beware. This vase brings death." And of course, this guy ignored the note, tossed it away, and brought the vase to an auction house. It's a classic case. If you ignore history, you're gonna repeat it. It was sold to a local pharmacist for the equivalent of $2,200 USD in today's money, and 3 months later the pharmacist passed. And then his family sold the vase to a 37-year-old doctor who also passed away soon after. At that point, people realized the reputation of the vase, nobody wanted it, minus a single archaeologist, who died 3 months later from a mysterious unknown infection. Distraught and afraid, the family tossed the vase out the window, and then a cop found it. Tried passing it off to multiple museums, nobody wanted to publicly accept it, but it's in the archives of one of them now, not out in the public. Also known as Uzi, this Iceman mummy currently resides at the South Tyrol Museum of Archaeology in Bolzano, Italy. Though this mummy was discovered in like the 90s, it's said to be the body of a man who lived around 3345 BCE. So this is the oldest known mummy from Europe, and since he was found, he's been rumored to hold a terrible curse. Why? Well, I think about several people with links to the mummy have died in tragic accidents. Forensic expert Rainer Henn was on his way to give a lecture about the Iceman when he was killed in a car crash. There was a mountaineer, Kurt Fritz, who directed scientists to the body, killed in an avalanche, but everybody else in his party survived, and I could go on and on. Actor James Dean loved his 1955 Porsche Spyder, having had it extensively customized, and he affectionately called it his little bastard. So apparently this car was so transparently evil that Sir Alec Guinness, when meeting Dean for lunch, was like, "If you get in that car, you're gonna be found dead in it by this time next week." Dean laughed it off, and when he was barreling down Route 466 at an estimated 85 miles per hour, there was a student named Donald Turnipseed driving a Ford two-door and decided to make a sudden turn onto Route 41. Well, the impact sent the Ford about 40 feet down the road, and Dean was pronounced dead on arrival at the Paso Robles War Memorial Hospital at 6:20 p.m. But the curse didn't end here. When mechanics tried to repair the wrecked car, it fell on one of them, crushing both his legs. A Dr. William Eskridge bought the Porsche, or Porsche if you're my dad, from a salvage yard in Burbank and proceeded to strip it for parts. So he installed the engine into his race car, then loaned the transmission and suspension parts to a fellow doctor and racer, Troy McHenry. Well, Doctor Number 1 crashed his race car at the Pomona sports car races, and thankfully he survived. But McHenry was not as lucky. He hit a tree and was killed in the same race, so the curse of Little B gained strength. Two thieves who tried to take pieces of the car were both injured. Somebody who took the wheels also died, and we're not done yet. In March of 1959, while in storage in Fresno, the car mysteriously caught fire and suffered remarkably little damage. 2 melted tires, some singed paint, and the fire didn't spread to any other vehicles in storage. Also, Little B managed to crush and kill a truck driver who was just transporting it. So yeah, it's kind of been in an archive sense for the best. The Royal Scottish Museum is home to an ancient relic that you do not want in your possession. Also known as the Woman from Lem, the Goddess of Death statue seems to curse every family that comes into contact with it. The statue was discovered in Cyprus in 1878 and dates from around 3500 BC. The 7 members of the first family who owned it reportedly all died within just 6 years of acquiring it, and similar fates met the next family. Historians lost track of it for a little while, but then the third owners eventually donated it to the museum before they could perish as well. This supposedly haunted shop ledger was given to Brighton's very own haunted house, Preston Manor, after the Kent family who owned it claimed it caused them to be plagued by ghostly visitors and spectral visions. Now this ledger, which dates from the First World War, was discovered bricked up in a shop in Brighton by a worker who was demolishing the building back in 1988. He took it home, and soon after, he and his daughter began experiencing visions of men, women, and families, and a soldier with a horse. The daughter was told by one of the spirits that the book must be returned to Brighton or else it's gonna get gnarly. So the terrified family delivered it to Preston Manor, because they're known for their paranormal occurrences and spiritual events. And a medium visiting the house inspected the book and confirmed there were some bad things coming from it. So like I mentioned before, that traveling museum is home to a lot of objects with dubious pasts. And one of the creepiest is the Catskills Crone. As the legend goes, a pair of hikers were trekking in the Catskills when they came across this statue, which has nails hammered into its eyes and a rope around its neck. They took it from the cave where it was found. Bad idea. And once they brought it home, they saw an apparition of a woman accompanied by the smell of pond water. No thanks. That's all for today, folks. I've been Alexa. See ya!